I'm Lucia. I am based in Cape Town, South Africa, and I am working for the Climate and Development Knowledge Network. What I'm passionate about, two things, that's cheating, but they're very quick. One is food and one is more bottom-up decision-making. So they're quite different, but those are two passions. Right. Welcome to everyone.
Thanks, Lucia. And as I said, my name is Bettina Köller. I'm with the Red Cross Crescent Climate Center, and I'm passionate about games, actually, and playing games where we can learn lots of cool things and have fun at the same time. So let's see if we can do some of this. I'm not so sure about the eating and the dancing, but maybe some of the other things we can explore in this session today. And maybe this is a good moment for me to unpin. And if your bandwidth allows, it'd be lovely if you could open your camera. And if you can only see the speaker, if you navigate to the top right and put the view on gallery view, then you'll see everyone who has the camera on. Thank you also, Flaminia. Flaminia is also joining us to support this session. Colleague from Ingrid. Thank you so much, Flaminia, for joining also. Hi, Sushila. Nice to see you. Very lovely. Anyone else who feels brave enough to turn on your camera?
And I love to see you guys. I see so many familiar faces, and I love to see you. Hi, Sushila. Nice.
Great. Okay. Yes, Freddie. Okay, nice to see you. Hi, Freddie.
Hi, nice to see you too.
Yeah, Freddie, long time. Christiana, nice. Welcome.
Fabulous. Super. Well, I think it's time to get going. And, if you have, maybe all of you know Salim, who's one of the key organizers and a professor who has been with the IED for a long time and is now at the Bangladesh University. And the question he always said is, why don't we do it learning by doing? And so we talk about learning. Let's do a little exercise. And Abdurrahman, nice to see you. James, very nice to see you online. It is much easier to do the following exercise if you can actually see who you're speaking to. And it is impossible to do the exercise if you can't speak, because it's a speaking exercise. So we really hope you'll be able to, if not your camera, the very least to turn on your microphone, because what we'd like to do as a first exercise is an exercise that is called What I Like About That. And I'll ask my colleague Lucia to demonstrate with me how that works. So you have one partner in the group who will ask another person in the group to do something minimum unpleasant, maximum impossible. Okay, and the other person very, very clearly listens, very intently listens to it, and finds the one thing that they really appreciate from this request. So it is about listening. It is about finding a small nugget in something that maybe otherwise is scary or impossible. Lucia, you want to give it a go? Or shall I start?
As you like, you can start.
Yes, Lucia, I would like you to jump out of an aeroplane without a parachute.
What I like about this is that you know that I don't suffer from vertigo.
All right. What do you want me to do, Lucia?
Bettina, I would like you to, going back to one of my passions, ensure that community voices are used in decision-making or heard in decision-making.
What I like about that is that I think that you think I'm so powerful that I can do this all by myself. All right. You understand the point? Maybe the ask is really crazy, find something nice and appreciate it. And my tip is the person who is responding, please start with what I like about that is, if you can be quite precise. Does it make sense? Do you want to try the breakout groups? Are you ready? We really hope you have people in your breakout room who will be able to open the microphones and see if you can say to someone, I want you to do this, and see if that person can respond. What I like about that is, and then respond with what you think. Only for 3 minutes or maybe 4 minutes. So make sure you're short and sharp. You ready? Here are the breakout rooms. Please join the breakout room and enjoy. You might have to click join the link to be able to join the breakout room, and whoever is remaining in plenary can play the game with the people who are remaining here. Please join the breakout room and enjoy what I like about that activity. And if you've just joined, Bonfas, I think I'll give you a quick introduction about the exercise. Can you hear me, Bonfas? Hello, everyone. Welcome here. We're just doing an exercise. And if you would like to participate in the short exercise, it's about learning and exploring. Then please feel free to open camera, and I know you are ready to join, so we can do our short breakout group. The breakout rooms are busy at the moment. People are joining there for the conversations, and we'll be coming back here in about 3 minutes. So if you would like to have a conversation here, please open your camera or say hello in the chat, and I know you're ready to go. Anyone else who has joined here? Aziz, Bonfas, Farhana, Jennifer, Julia, please feel free to open your camera and say a quick hello while we wait for others to return from the exercise. I hope you can hear me all right. And let's see if we can. Aziz, yes, thank you. Julia, fantastic.
Hello.
Are you going to try this little exercise that the others are doing in the breakout groups?
How are you?
Fine, thanks, Aziz. Nice to see you.
I would, but I didn't get the instructions for the exercise. So.
We'll do it now. So I'm going to ask you, one of you, maybe I'll start with you, Julia, to do something that's quite impossible. And what you do is you listen very intently and you say, what I like about this, and you pick one thing. So for example, if you would ask me, I want you to jump out of an airplane without a parachute, I could say, what I like about that is that you think I'm very brave. Yeah?
Okay.
Do you want to try?
Let me think about it.
Take a moment, take a deep breath. And is there any challenge you'd like to give me? Any challenge?
Just thinking.
Let me give you a challenge, Julia. I would like you to sing a song in front of 1,000 people in the main square of your village or town or city. And you can reply with what I like about that is, and try and find one small thing that you like about this.
Maybe I think what I like about it is I love singing. And yeah, the
Wow.
audience really wouldn't matter for me.
Fantastic. Awesome. One thing you want me to do?
So you're saying one thing I will need to do?
No, you want me to do?
Or one thing I will want you to do?
You can throw me a challenge.
I would want you, Jennifer, to swim in an ocean without maybe like you just jump deep down into the hard sea. What will you think about that?
All right, that's a challenge to Jennifer. Jennifer, can you hear us? Here's a challenge to you, Jennifer. Julia wants you to swim in an ocean, deep dive. Jennifer, can you hear us? No, well, if you would ask me, Julia, I would say, what I like about that is that you think I'm a really good swimmer and I am totally fearless of big ocean creatures.
Wow.
Thank you, Julia.
That's
Welcome
being
back,
brave.
everyone. I would love to hear, thanks Bonfast also for the comment, your camera's not good. We totally understand that your bandwidth might be limited and it's really hard to keep the camera on. Thank you for those who we see. It's very nice to see some of you. And please feel free, of course, to prioritize audio over video. Welcome back. Any reflections? How was this for you? Was it easy or difficult? Any reflections? Feel free to speak and take the floor. How was this exercise for you?
We went into the breakout rooms and we came back, so we are a bit confused here.
Oh, okay. So sometimes
nothing happened.
a participatory exercise is confusing. Nothing happened. No one spoke to you.
We just said our highs. I was Musa and my friend from Somalia, Abdi.
Ah, very good. Interesting. So there was an instruction and an exercise and something else happened. That is the reality often. Very good. James, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Let's hear other thoughts and reflections. What happened in your breakout groups? Thank you, James.
I thought we are waiting, like one of the facilitators will come to us and participate the game. So we are waiting and then the time finished.
Oh, very interesting. So there was an expectation and an assumption that someone would come and tell you what to do or take you through the exercise. Very interesting. Thank you, Abdurrahman. Those are things we're learning as we go along. Yes. Any other thoughts?
Yes.
Christiana?
Yes, breakout room. Yes, breakout room 3. It was an interesting one because it was like a reunion to old friends, especially with Ingrid. We discussed a lot. Yes, we did the game and it was interesting.
Great, Christiana. You did the game. You had the privilege of having a facilitator in your room. Fantastic.
Yes, yes, yes.
Very good. Any other thoughts and reflections?
For us, it was a round of introduction. So we were just introducing each other and then some additional people join on and we were introducing and the breakout room close out.
So sometimes we have a plan and something else happens. And I think that is probably what happens to a lot of us in life. Certainly it happens a lot when we talk about adaptation and complex challenges. We have a really great plan and then something else happens and then you go with the flow. So I really hope you had a good introduction. What happened to Julia is she arrived in the plenary and I was there and I said, how about Julia, we play this game? And she was gracious and courageous enough to just do it. And so thank you, Julia. Much appreciated. And without further ado, I'd like to say thank you very much for this introduction. The idea was, just to be very clear, that actually everyone should try this in the breakout rooms. And my assumption obviously was not communicated very well. So apologies for this. And I think this is what happens often. We give an exercise and it can be interpreted in so many different ways. And that's okay. We can learn from it. I can learn from it to be a bit more clearer next time. To make sure you're not waiting for a facilitator in your breakout room that doesn't arrive. Sorry for this. And with this, I will hand over to Lucia to help us unpack a little bit more about how we learn. Lucia, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Bettina. And maybe I can quickly share that I was in the room with Essam and I made the request of him planting 1 million trees in Sudan. And then he told me that he works on conservation forestry projects. And so he's already kind of done it. So we just found out that some requests may not be as impossible or outrageous as we think. But yeah, I think the focus of the session is really about learning and learning styles, and people learn in different ways. So we wanted to find out from you before we start exploring what are these different ways of learning. We wanted to hear how you actually learn. So we have produced a Mentimeter. I'm going to put the link in the chat box, and I'm hoping that all of you are able to use it, but and click on the link and fill in the question. But if not, I'm also going to tell you what the question is, and it's a very simple question. It's how do you learn? So what helps you to learn? Like what motivates you to understand things well, to gain new knowledge, gain new understanding? So this is the first question. So you're also welcome to answer in the chat box if you prefer, but otherwise I will also try to share my screen so that we can see if any of you are responding to the actual Mentimeter. Please do let me know if it is working. I don't see any responses yet, yeah, okay. Oh, so some people are starting to answer. That's great. So for some, we see quite different things already, no? Some are saying reading, some are saying doing, so much more active like than reading, and some listening. So I think these are 3 different levels of activity or of proactivity, let's say. Some people learn through fun, and so I think that maybe games could fall into that category. Excitement, I think, yeah, like if something is not very interesting and exciting, then it's quite difficult for it to stick with us, I think. Visualization, so we see that some people need to see images, no, and words, like that helps us. We need to also use our eyes and not only our ears, for example. Curiosity, highlight, I see. The topic, I think also like the type of content. If you're interested in that, of course, you're going to learn much more than if it's something that doesn't really spark your interest. The environment, I think, is very important. Like if we are in a really noisy place and messy, it's not really going to help us to learn. So some people need more quiet than others. Some people are unable to get anything done if it's noisy. So I think that probably actually there are quite different, even the environment has many definitions. No? It's quite a personal definition. Through participation and socializing, so interactive activities, I think, can also help people to learn. No, like it's also something a bit more practical. As somebody else also said, reading, but doing, there's quite a few people that are keen in doing, listening, reading, visualization, detailed interaction. So yeah, I think this has been great, and I see 14 people. There's still a couple more maybe that are still answering, but I also wanted.
Sorry, Lucia, just some people cannot, they put it in the chat. because they could
Okay,
not
great.
access the link. Yeah.
Right.
So there's
Thank you.
exposure and learning, reading, listening, and sight.
Great. I've just opened the chat. I hope it's not on top of the screen, but thank you. So a bit more support for reading and listening, and again, sight the visual. So great. I think this is quite good. We can, I think, move on to probably the next one, which is quite the opposite. Let me just move to the next question. And this one is, what makes it hard for you to learn? So I think if you go back to Mentimeter, to that same link, the new question should appear. And so here, like, what hinders your learning? What blocks you from learning? So somebody else in the chat box, I think, about what helps you to learn is that it's practical. So again, like getting involved in something, no, learning by doing. That's, I agree with that. I'm also quite a learning by doing, and often by mistakes, no, and failure, which is also something which really can help us to learn, even though in the moment it's not the most fun. So in terms of what hinders you or blocks you from learning, I see in the chat box, poor environment, stress. Yeah, I think that it's really the case that sometimes when you're very stressed, you shut down and you cannot really take on anything new or learn. Somebody else is saying in the chat, too much theory discourages me. I also agree with that. So like, yeah, we're all different, but I think that, yeah, things that become too intellectual and theoretical may not appeal to everyone. I see distractions, boring stuff. So again, that goes to what interests you. Noise, conflict, definitely. Wow, it's come up twice, the conflict and conflicts. So I can see that that is an important factor. Jargon. So when we hear words that we don't really understand, that are too technical, that can also, yeah, prevent us from understanding or make us shut down, again, feel it's too theoretical, it's too academic. So that can also play a role. I see noises growing and distractions and boring things. What is this one? Habit. And interesting, I see also age. Like, I don't know what exactly that means. James, if you want, you're welcome to unmute and tell us what you mean by age. Are you getting too old? But you didn't look very old in the camera.
Yes, the older you get, the lazier you become to do things. I think I'm getting there.
Well, let's see, because maybe it just depends on the way you learn, no? So maybe certain ways, yes, you become lazier or less keen or interested, but others, maybe it still motivates you. So I think it just, yeah, who knows? But I think that, yes, we have mostly gotten 15 responses, and many of them in the chat. So I think this is probably enough. I'll stop sharing, but yeah, thank you so much. I think it was great to just see what are some of these factors that help you or prevent you from learning. And I think we'll come back to them throughout the session. So let me pass on to Ingrid, I think. Is that right?
Yes. Oh, I had better change my name because now I'm called CDI Learning. That is a bit, that is not necessary. Okay. Hi guys, I'm going to mute somebody there who's making too much noise. So it's nice to see many of you, and I've been trying to also catch up. And with some of you, we have talked about learning also in the past in our courses. And but let's chat a little bit more about it. So some of the things you might already know because you are experts in learning. some of the things might be new to you. So let's build on what, can you see the screen or not yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. See, this is the most asked question in the universe when you're facilitating things online. You are asking 100 times, can you see my screen? Can you see my screen? Okay, you can see my screen. You see it, huh?
Yes.
Yes, great.
Very well.
Okay, so linking to the barriers and what helps you to learn and what kind of hinders you to learn is we all go through a learning process. And I wanted to kind of discuss with you about your first mobile phone. Maybe your mobile phone looked a bit like the one on the left. I had this mobile phone, it was like a brick with an antenna sticking out of it. So which you would really heavy and you would stick, would put it like to your ear like this. And I remember what I did when I first bought this phone, and I took it out of the wrapping, and I wanted to use it. So my question to you is, what did you do do you remember when you had your first mobile phone? Do you remember this? When you got your first mobile phone? Does anybody remember this? Yes, Christiana, you remember this? So what did you do when you remembered, when you got this phone? Were you excited?
This is where I started.
Where did you start?
Yes, I just laughed and said, this is where I started. It wasn't too wonderful.
It was very wonderful. But what did you do first? Did you just use it, or what did you do when you unpacked it, the phone?
Okay, when I got it, I charged it. I was asked to charge it, and then I went to buy the SIM card, and then did some updates, and I was using it.
Oh, so you're a very clever person, eh? But let's go to Orisa Sona. What did you do when you first had your phone?
Well, thank you very much. When I first had my phone, yes, when I first got my mobile set, which looks like the third one in the row with the antenna, I didn't get money to get the SIM because it was quite expensive in Nigeria then. So I kept it for like a week, and I was reading the manual, the instructions, until I got a SIM, installed it, and I started navigating, trying to learn how to use the phone. Though the phones were not as sophisticated as the ones we have now. But even at that, I had to do a lot of navigation before I got used to it, and it took time.
Yeah, so first you read the manual, eh? And then did you get stuck somewhere along the line?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and then when you got stuck, what did you do?
Well, I went back to the user manual.
Yeah.
I contacted friends who were using similar phones, who had been using it before myself, to show me around some of the stores we had there.
Okay, so actually, when you bought this phone, you first read the manual, and then you tried, and then you got stuck again. You went back to the manual, then you maybe got stuck again. You asked your friend, or you asked somebody in the store. So this is kind of like an example from how you've learned how to use the phone. So when you are learning, it is so you are using it. It doesn't work. You are kind of reflecting on it. You are trying it again. Maybe it doesn't work again. And so this is kind of a cycle that you go through. And this is kind of what learning is all about. Learning is not just like a one way of flow of information, but learning is defined by, learning is defined as the process that enhances knowledge, which is the capacity for effective action. And that is Mr. Senge. He was a systems scientist who wrote a book about the art and the practice of the learning organization. And there's Mr. John Dewey. he said, we do not learn from experience, but we learn from reflecting on the experience. So it's not only the doing, but then if it goes wrong, then we reflect on this experience. And learning then involves applying lessons learned into future actions, which provide the basis for another cycle of learning. So what can we see here in this definition of learning? We see the word action, we see the word experience, the reflecting, and we see the word cycle. So it's also, when we heard the Benga, it's a continuous cycle. You act, you reflect, you make sense of it, and you're doing it again. And this is what we call reflective learning. So it is like a sense-making process. It is trying to understand better and better. It's like peeling this onion, getting to the center of the onion and trying to understand what things are really about. What is this phone really about? How do I use it in the most best way for my own, for my own benefit? So it also involves to kind of step back and kind of assess why and reflect why things are not working and make sense of it. So you're building on past experiences, and then you create meaning and you kind of redoing it again. So you are thinking about stuff, you are feeling it, you are digesting it. And it is very much based on reflection that stimulates your own learning. And that also stimulates that you want to actually apply the lessons that you learned. This is what we call reflective learning. And some of you might know this cycle. This is Mr. Kolb. And Mr. Kolb, it is one of the Kolb learning cycle, which is one of the many theories on learning. And it is actually one of the most influential one when we talk about experiential learning. And it is built around the notion that people learn from experience, and then they build new knowledge, and then based on practice, and then they use this analysis and experimentation to decide what type of this new knowledge is relevant and how it can be applied again. So he says you're going through a circle, and he says you're going, experience is central in this learning process. And there's 4 stages for effective learning. There's the concrete experience, there's the reflective observation, there is the abstract conceptualization, and there is the active experimenting. And he says that all of us go through this learning cycle, but we don't all start at the same point. And that's what we are going to look into now. So there is a learning style, is where you are you have a preference for the style of learning. So you go all through the same cycle, but you are starting depending on your style of learning. And I would like to, these are the 4 stages again. First stage is the concrete learning. Second is reflection. Then you have the conceptualization, and then you have the active experimentation. But to make it more practical, I'm going to talk to you about your own learning style. I think then it might become more clear. So the first learning style is an activist. And an activist is a person who really likes to learn from concrete experience. An activist will say, I'll try anything once. I'm starting to do it and I'm just trying. That's an activist. There's another learning style, which is called a reflector. And a reflector learns from reflective observation. He or she says, no, I need time to think about it. The third style is the theorist. For the theorist, he learns from conceptualization, abstract conceptualization. For the theorist, if it's logical, it's good. And there's the fourth one, is the pragmatist, and the pragmatist says, if it works, it's good for me. It's active experimentation. And these learning styles are developed by Honey and Mumford, and they are built around these experiential learning cycle from Kolb. And maybe you recognize yourself in this, so pay some attention to the sayings here. So the activists say, okay, let's just do it. We'll see how it works out, and they'll dive in. The reflector is saying like, why do you do that like this? So it's like this thinker, why do you do it like this? Then the theorist will ask, do you have this information on paper? Is it always the case that? So they really look also for the manual, like what Benga was looking for. Eh? And then the pragmatist, in practice, it does not work like that. Can I please have an example? So these are the 4 learning styles. And what I would like to discuss with you all is which of the learning styles you prefer. Do you consider yourself an activist? Do you consider yourself a reflector, a pragmatist, or a theorist? You can also be somewhere in the middle. And what I would like you to do is click on the link in the chat of Zoom. I think Flaminia will share a chat. And then you are getting access to it's called a Jamboard, and which looks like this. I will share it with you. Yes, let me share it, and then you can. I hope you see my screen now. So if you click on the link, then you will see this the Jamboard. And then, yes, and Freddy knows exactly how it works. Freddy, great. You've done it in the course before. So you use a sticky note and you write down where you think which learning style you have. So you click here on the sticky notes, and then you write, you can even make a nice color. You think, okay, I want to be orange. And then you say Ingrid, you type, and then you say save, cancel, and then you see Ingrid, and then you can move by clicking on it, and you say, okay, so I was already here. I think I am an activist pragmatist, so I put myself here. So can you do that for you? If it doesn't work, if this is too complicated, you can also put it in the chat. So just think like how you like to learn. And I want to see you guys, so sorry, I'm just moving it about. Is it clear what I'm asking you to do? Can you get into the link? Hi, Yasser. Hi, welcome. Oh, Faisal, if you can't use Jamboard, you can just put it in the chat. Just if you have an idea on, you think, okay, this would be my preferred style. So you can just write it in the chat. If you think, yeah, this sounds like me. Are you more somebody who, are you somebody who kind of jumps into things? Are you somebody who kind of first has to think about it before you start? And you might be more a reflector. If you like the books and you first like to know everything there is to know about it, then you are more like a theorist. And if you like experience and having the proof of the pudding that you see, okay, I want to know if it works, then you are more a pragmatist. So there's some things in the chat, Flaminia. Okay, Benga is there. Well, activist, Julia is a theorist. Malik. Is it difficult to access, guys, or is it okay? Okay, Faisala is mostly reflective, but you love the activist style. Ah. I'm a pure
I love that
activist.
one because sometimes we're attracted to something else that we wish we had more of. I like that one.
Mina is a reflector. Oh yeah, Mina, I remember that. Huh? I remember. I know some of you, of course, when you were going through a learning process where I was also involved. And of course, I know some of your styles. Yeah. And so let's see where people are. Yasser is a theorist reflector. Yeah, some of you also said you've done the learning style test. Christiana says, I learn like an activist. I like and I work in confidence that if I try anything, it will work for me. But everybody is taking action. Yeah? Don't mix the activist by taking action. All of them take actions. Only the way they start is different. Like Benga, for example, he first started to read the manual. And then he started to try. and then he was reflecting on it, and then he started again. Some of you might have used a mobile phone, and that was like me. Like I take the phone and I start pushing all the buttons, and then it doesn't work. And then I would ask a friend, and then if I'm still confused, then I would read the manual. So I have a different starting point. Okay, let's have a look at how we're doing. Did everybody kind of write down their style? So Faizullah, you're saying I would like to be an I am a reflector, but I love to have the activist style. Why are you saying that? Can I ask you? Is Faizullah still here? Yes. Faizullah? I hope he's there. Can you unmute yourself? Well, they might not be there. Mina is in.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
I'm sorry, I could not catch your question because of the internet.
No problem, Faizullah. You were saying that you are a reflector, but you love to be an activist. Why are you saying that?
Yeah. Because as you mentioned in the definition of the activist style, so I mostly try to be active in learning. So sometimes could not catch the things or the information. So I mostly use the reflector style in learning. So and as I
go ahead.
Yeah, but love to be activist because
you love to be an activist. You would love to start immediately.
Yeah.
Is it always good, because I'm an activist, and I also think Abdi, you're an activist. Is it always good to just start?
No. Basically, sometimes you did something like it was the wrong way. So you tried a lot, then you get back to all the way where you start in the morning. So, but I'm activist, yeah.
Yeah, Abdi, this is actually very true. So sometimes we activists,
we
start.
Sometimes you lost. Really, you lost.
Yeah, so you also, because you start and you don't think about it, you don't reflect, you don't read a book, you don't have the theory, you just start. But then you also might get into trouble because you didn't think enough. So then it doesn't work. And then you still need to reflect why it didn't work. And you still have to read the book. And then you can do it again. So do you see that we all go through this same cycle?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So that is a good thing. And who's a pragmatist? Darling, you are a pragmatist or pragmatist activist. How do you work? How do you learn? Is Darling there? Yeah.
Hello, please can you come again?
Yes, because you put your sticky notes in between an activist and a pragmatist. So can you explain a little bit how that works for you when you are learning?
Okay, from my understanding of pragmatist, someone who likes to practice what he or she does. And I think I mostly learn by doing. So that's why I think I'm a pragmatist.
Yeah, so and you are doing things based on what already existing good examples or experiments, the things that you can trust.
Come again?
Are you basing before you start doing something, you already have some information of things that work or don't work and that you can trust? You have these this information. Okay, this might work, and then you are
usually
building on that.
I have no knowledge about a particular thing at all, I just go ahead by trying and just like working around it. Then I just figure it out.
Maybe you are a bit more like an activist. Let's have a look at the different styles. Thank you for sharing this. It is really nice to see. Some of you I also recognize from. So when you are in these different styles, there is no good and no bad. That's the first thing I want to say. It is just a different starting point, but we all go through these same 4 stages. So the strength of an activist is they're very flexible. They're really ready to take action. They like new situations, and they're optimistic, and they about anything new. It's like, oh yeah, let's go. Let's just do this and let's try it. But their weakness is, and this is what Abdi was saying so nicely, it's like they have the tendency to start without thinking about the consequences. So I would jump off a mountain, and then I would realize halfway that I have forgotten my parachute. And that would not be a smart move, because I would end up like this. Huh? So often activists also take unnecessary risks. And they rush into action without sufficient preparation. And we also activists, we get bored soon. Then we think, oh, it's not exciting enough. I get very bored and I want to do something else. So that is an activist. So sometimes there's a strength and weaknesses of all these styles. Then a reflector is very careful. A reflector is weighing. Eh? Shall we do it like this? What about this? Maybe we should go left. Maybe we should go right. They're very thorough and methodical. They're thoughtful, and they're very good at listening to different people to bring this information together. And they don't jump to conclusions. They really want to look at all the sides of the cube. But they also they hold back from participation. That is a weakness. And they're slow to make up their mind, because they will say, yeah, but let's have a look. Yeah, Ingrid, but should we not look at it like this? Or maybe we have to look at it like this. So they are very overcautious, and they don't like to take risks. And they are not very assertive. They are not the ones that go like blah, 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 chat and all that, no small talk. So the reflectors in the team, do you recognize yourself in this? Maybe you can put it in the chat. Do you recognize also some of your weaknesses? Yes. Yes, Julia is saying, yeah. So that is also, and sometimes I'm an activist, and I get super frustrated with reflectors, because they go much too slow to my liking sometimes. I'm like, come on, move on. And like, Ingrid, but you're doing this, but you're not thinking about it. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. So it's very good to have these different learning styles in a group. So to maximize the learning of the whole team. So the theorists, they're logical, vertical thinkers. They're very rational and objectives. They ask these probing questions, why things are happening the way they do. They have a very disciplined approach, and they like to understand the big picture. But they have a low tolerance for this uncertainty and disorder. They like to have structure, and they don't like intuition. Like, oh yeah, let's just go this way. They're like, we need to have this underlying concept. We need to understand it before we move. And they are full of should, oughts, and musts, and they really like the theory. They like to know really. They like to read the books. They like to read the concepts and the theories before they kind of move. Did we have any theorists in the team? Maybe you can put it in the chat, because I can't see my other screen now anymore. And then we have the pragmatists. They are eager to test out things out in practice. They're practical. They're realistic. If it works, it's good for me. They're very businesslike. They go straight to the point, and they are technique oriented. But they reject anything without obvious application. So they don't like really to be an Einstein. Eh? They don't like this kind of approach to life. They really need to have the proof. They're not really interested in theory or principles, and they're impatient with indecision. They want to come to a decision. And they are very oriented on the task. They don't really mind about having a nice dynamic in the group. The pragmatist. Who was a pragmatist? Is there a pragmatist in the team? Oh, not really.
Are we allowed to change?
Yes, you are allowed to change. If you think that you reckon, who wants to change?
James wants to change.
James, so what were you first and what are you now?
Can someone change character?
I thought I was a reflector.
Yes.
But now I think I'm a pragmatist.
Yeah, I also don't see you as a reflector. I happen to know you a bit, but I don't see you as a reflector. No. Yeah. So, and Christiana, it's not changing your character, it's just changing your style. And you can have different learning styles at different moments as well. And we also are training ourselves. So I've been working a lot with my colleague, Peter. Peter is a complete theorist. He hates it when I say, okay, Peter, let's go. And he's like, Ingrid, no, slow down. We first have to really think about this. We have to read it. We have to, etc. And we are a very good team together, because I push him to move faster, and he slows me down to think more. So that is why it is also very interesting to have all these different learning styles in a group. Does that make sense? Is there any questions about this, or is it clear? So there's no right or wrong. We all go through the same process. We only start at different points, but we all act, we all reflect. Okay, Abdi, please go ahead.
Yeah, basically I have experience like when it comes to different learning styles. When it comes to working with groups, it creates conflict between the group.
Yeah.
That's okay, or do you think so?
Yes, it is, will always happen. Like you have also engaged in quite a lot of group work. When you're working with people in the landscape or the value chain or the sector you work in, whether it is fisheries, climate change, whether it is disaster risk management or agriculture, you will work with different people. And if you want to facilitate change, if you want something to change, people have to learn together on how to make things better. And then, of course, you will get frustrated with each other. Because some of you, like you and me, Abdi, we want to start and we want to start doing. But other people, they need more time to reflect. And I have learned in my career and working with different stakeholders, but also for myself, that it is sometimes very nice to clash. Because if you don't rush into something too quickly, you also give yourself time to think and reflect why you do the things you do. And also then you come up with much better plans. So you all learn in a different way, but you also help each other learn and deepen your learning by reflecting together and by also stopping somebody or by pushing somebody forward to really experience it. So these conflicts and these struggles will only benefit you in the end. This is my experience. So don't be afraid of a little bit of this struggle, because it will enrich your learning. And there's no best, Faizullah. Because, and that's like Freddie saying, I think the best one is to be balanced, but recognizing the weakness. Exactly, Freddie. So the weakness, it is important for you to realize, like if I look at myself, that I rush into action and then things might go wrong. The reflectors, they might have to realize that sometimes they have to start acting, because you can't reflect for life. That will also not get you anywhere. So like Freddie is saying, it is very nice if it's all balanced and that you recognize your weakness and you think, okay, what can I now do to make that stronger? You know, not to have this risk of rushing into action or being too cautious or wanting to know all the theory. Abdi Rahman, Abdi, are you still holding your hand up or can I lower it?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Now, if you have something to say, then I'll just, oh yeah, okay, great. Is this clear? So there's no right or wrong. And so I think, Faizullah, it would be great if you work with me, because you can make me reflect more before I'm starting to jump off this mountain without having this parachute on my back. So it would be a very good team. So in that sense, it is nice to have these different learning styles. Okay, I hope this is clear. Now, the last thing I want to share with you, because I don't know if I'm over time, probably yes, is that we have these different, how do you call it? The different stages in learning. And so it's important to know and to realize that when you work with each other, like as a team in a training, or you work together on an action plan, or you work together with your stakeholders, your fishermen, your farmers. If you want to you're in a change process, you need to understand that people learn in different ways. If you're a theorist, what would you like? You like the books. Where's Benga? Benga likes to have a book. He likes to also read up about this, the concepts and the theories. So you need to, when you're working with different stakeholders and you want them to learn, you need to cater for the different learning styles. So these are some of the examples for the different learning styles. So if you are an activist, you can use your own and professional experience, your group process during the course, exercises, so active things. If you are a reflector, reflectors, they need to be able to reflect on what they've learned. They need to be able to get feedback, give feedback. They like frameworks, they like to work in groups, they like to work with case studies. The people that are more theorists, they really need to have like these books, the literature, the references, the theories and the paradigms underlining certain issues. Like if you talk about climate change, they want to understand what climate change is all about before they come up with something else. And then the pragmatists are very much on application. They like to experiment. So they like to apply methods and tools, to do individual assignments, and to really put their learning into action. So when you work with people in whatever setting, you need to understand that there's a preference for different people for how they like to learn. Some people like visuals, some people like text. So by offering a combination of things, you get the best out of the learning for a group. You cannot assume that everybody learns in the same way as you do. So you have to cater for these different learning styles. Okay, is that clear, guys and girls? Ladies and gentlemen, I better say. And that was, oh yeah, then my last, and this is the introduction to the next part. So your learning journey shouldn't be, learning doesn't happen when you're very comfortable. I see Abdi is very relaxed. Abdi, you have the camera on, and Abdi is like, yeah, I'm really relaxed. So he's comfortable, which is great to see, Abdi, because you're comfortable in the session. Yeah, but if you're like that for your learn, sorry, Abdi.
Yeah, I am at home.
Yeah, so I can see.
Times.
So you're comfortable, but if you're too comfortable with learning and you think, yeah, I know all of this or whatever, you dismiss new things. So you always have to stretch people a bit, push them out of their comfort zone. If you're stretched, you get a little bit anxious and then you start learning. You will stop learning when you are getting into panic, when you stress like, this is also what Lucia, what you wrote as a barrier. If you're stressed, you stop learning. Oh, Abdi, don't turn off the camera because it's nice to see you. So when you're stressed, you go like, and then you stop learning. So that is the learning journey. So make sure you're not too comfortable, that you stretch yourself, you learn new things, but don't panic. If you go into complete stress, your learning stops. Okay, that is, I have spoken enough. And Flaminia has shared in the chat a small video about learning, the co-op learning cycle, and she will also share with you a nice, very short online learning test that you can do to get a bit more understanding about whether you're a pragmatist, a theorist, a reflector, or an activist. And great, guys.
Thank you very much. But I will share it again.
Interaction. Oh, you shared it already. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Enough from my side. Stop share.
Thank you so much, Ingrid. I think a fantastic a moment for us to reflect on where we're at. And for me, the question is, so in this last session, in the session this morning, when I asked you to be in a breakout group, and some of you were waiting for a facilitator and others had a conversation, if you had to say you were very comfortable green, you were sort of on edge yellow, or you were in panic or very frustrated red, where have you been in the morning? Not in the morning, in the session at the beginning. Can you type in the chat red, green, or sorry, green, very comfortable, yellow, sort of a little bit under pressure, or red, panicked? Can you type in the chat just very briefly? Where were you this morning when I asked you to say what I like about that and exercise in breakout groups? If you were there, of course. Flaminia, yellow. Okay, a little bit edgy. Orange, a bit more to the red, a bit more panic. Yes. Any others? Yellow? Yellow? Julia, I'm glad it wasn't red. Thank you. All right, orange. And now let's take a deep breath and say, where are Faisula? Red, a little panicked. Yellow, yellow. No one was feeling green and very relaxed. Now, during the presentation that we just heard, where were you? Green, yellow, or red? And there's no right or wrong. This is just how you were feeling. So just share with us. Where were you right now? Green, says Julia. Green. Green. Okay, everyone was very chilled there. Green. So Abdurrahman, you see, you're in brilliant company. People are chilling and relaxing while listening to Ingrid, being very energized. Yeah, everyone is green. Faisula, a bit yellow. Yeah, all right. Thank you. And I think this really illustrates the point really nicely, is to say, sometimes we need to push people to the edge. But if we would have pushed you over the edge and one exercise pushes you into the yellow and the next exercise into the red and the next exercise also red, what do you think would happen? What do you think would happen in this group if we pushed you into the red, one exercise after the other? What do you think would happen? James is dark green. What do you think would have happened if we would have pushed you? Any thoughts? You're welcome to unmute your microphone or to type in the chat. What do you think would have happened if we would have kept pushing you? No one has any clue? What would you do if I would
We'll
keep
start
pushing
feeling
you? Yes.
uncomfortable.
Yeah. And then?
Yeah. Then panic sets in, and then yeah.
And then maybe you click leave the meeting and or you go and get a coffee or something to de-stress. Would that be a possibility, James?
Yeah, that's how it would go. You see one person leaving, then you also leave. Why should you stay there?
Yeah.
While people are
Yeah.
leaving?
So then you feel like, oh my God, then she's picking on me if everyone else leaves. Yeah. Thank you, James. So I think what is interesting here is to say we have the different learning styles. And when you design a session or a dialogue, it is really important to make sure that these learning styles, everyone finds a little bit for them. They can relax because they think it's nice or exciting. But it's not just too green all the time, because then also we start maybe being distracted and look at our messages and start doing emails because you go like, yeah, it's okay, I know this. So what we say in process design is it's really important to have a good flow, to achieve a good flow, so that it feels like you're paddling down a river and there's a nice calm stretch and you can look at the landscape and you can relax and feel calm. And you have some nice conversations with the person you're paddling with. And then there's a rapid and you have a bit of action and maybe you're even a little bit scared, but you're not so scared that you fear for your life and swim to the shore. You keep paddling. And then there's a nicer, calmer stretch again where you feel calm and confident. And maybe the people who love the action will start feeling a little bored. And so before they start feeling very bored, you give them a little bit of excitement. So what I want to say is actually that it's really, really useful to think a little bit about learning styles. And I really like what Ingrid was saying. There's no good or best learning style. They're just different. And probably we all have some of the elements in us. Sometimes maybe we feel more reflective. Sometimes we feel maybe more activist. Maybe we feel more confident in the day and we feel suddenly like, yeah, anything goes. Or maybe we had a sad experience and we feel like, no, I'm not so adventurous today. So these things happen and they change. And that is great, because I think what we're saying is it's really important that you are aware that there are these different styles, and that if you have only cater for the activists you will lose some people because they will say, no, this is too crazy, I need to think. And you don't actually manage to really draw on the amazing diversity in the group. So if you have a process that allows the different learning styles to come and shine, you can really draw on all the energy and the diversity in the group. And I think in really amazing processes, especially when they're around complex learning, that is what we want to do. We want to design processes where everyone feels at some point in their comfort zone and they're an expert. And at another point, they feel a little challenged and they feel like, whoa, I don't know if I like this, but let me try. And so you design a process where you say, you can try, I'll not force you to, but if you try and it wasn't so bad, maybe the next time you take even more risk. And this is really, I think, when we design these processes, we really allow people to really embrace a much deeper learning. I think Peter Senge calls it being very present and really understanding the different perspectives and embracing them and not resisting them. So Ingrid says you were all too comfortable taking the learning styles part, but I actually want to say, I think we need in processes sometimes this. We need the activist, we need the calming, we need the short turn taking. What we say is if someone talks for 60 minutes in one style, it will be too tough for other people to actually stay focused and to be present. So short turn taking is good. You might have seen we had different learning styles. We have different activities in this session. And we were trying to take turns. We had different people speak. We had a Mentimeter. We had more talking. We had a PowerPoint presentation. We had a group work that raised some very interesting points. And so I think this is really for us to give you a bit of an insight in when considering learning styles, consider your audience, of course, when planning a process, but also be aware that individuals come with their own preferences. And as you facilitate, especially if it's in a setting where you can actually see people in the room, you'll be able to see if you ask people too much and people start sitting like this. And then they start packing their bag or they're looking at their phone. Then you realize, okay, now maybe you pushed them too hard or they're bored. What is it you can pick up the vibe and adjust as a facilitator? That is the magic, I think, in considering learning styles in interactive process and dialogue. And I want to say we really need to do this because the learning in complex setting is what we need to think about local level adaptation and how to link that effectively to policy. We need all of you guys to really be smart and effective to do this because we have an urgent climate crisis at our hands. And this is, I think, one of the key recipes in how we can address some of the challenges. The substance is local. We have lots of diverse knowledge that can address it. But sometimes it's very, very hard to bring people together and have one conversation because people talk past each other. And I think learning styles is one way to consider different people in these dialogue processes and to allow them to really shine in their own right and to have a good dialogue. And with this, I think we'd like to open the floor to all of you to hear, do you have a particular question? You could say that, Lucia, maybe I must ask Lucia to turn on your video again. You can put us on the hot chair for probably only about 8 minutes. So make the most of it. You can put us on the hot chair. What do you think is a challenge that you encountered and what is a question you'd like to ask us? The hot chair is open. And if no one asks anything for 8 minutes, then we'll relax fully in our green zone, fully relaxed. But you're welcome to push us into the yellow or the orange, or hopefully not the red. Let's open the floor. Anything at all that you'd like to ask us after the session. We have a great capacity for silence. Sorry, there's no music, but we will be patiently waiting for your comment or your question. Are you feeling, some of you, being pushed into the yellow? Can you feel it? Yes? So just enjoy and we'll wait. You can see the anticipation on Lucia and Ingrid's faces. The silence is killing us, but we're still here and we still have a couple of minutes left. Any question you'd like to ask us? Maybe a challenge that you encountered. So when you're facilitating, you think, okay, are people still there? Is it my connection that is not working? Or was the question too difficult? And I think we have a potential commentator, do we? Yes, Olovenga, the floor is yours, and fantastic. Thank you for taking the floor.
All right, thank you very much for the wonderful presentations. I must confess it's been really, really, really helpful, especially for someone like me who have to face a number of students with different learning styles, just like I've learned today. Well, at times, I don't know, the challenge is as a facilitator, I don't know, trying to cope with all these various learning styles, because at times, if you are an activist, you may sometimes get pissed off a little with people who are theorists amongst the people you are teaching or something. So I really want to see how this can be managed. Because as an example, my boss there, Madam Boss, Ingrid, yes, she gave her style, and that is truly her style, pushing you. We were really pushed during the session, the course I had with her, and it was really great. But we do not all share that feature. So I really want to know how one will be able to manage and go along with all the learning characters that we have. Thank you.
Great question. Great question. And yeah, I want to say, maybe I'll pick off and give the floor to Lucia and Ingrid, just to say, I agree. I think as a facilitator, you can be quite extrovert and you can be quite out there and make jokes and be very present, or you can be quite introvert and more theorist. I think people will understand where you're coming from. And what I would say is, my recommendation would be authentic. Do the style that you're comfortable with, and people will acknowledge and appreciate that authenticity. I think we all know that if someone tries to be funny, but their jokes are really not funny, it can be quite tough for everyone, you know. So I think being authentic is great. If you have a facilitation team with different styles, that's really nice too, because then you can actually give people also the opportunity to engage with one or other personality. But let me open the floor to Lucia and Ingrid. Any tips you have for Olovenga for the challenge of how do you deal with, and then sometimes
Oh, you're breaking up a bit, Bettina. Yeah, I think I can.
Where's yours?
Yeah, now you're back. Yeah. So yeah, maybe for the people that were not in this same session. So we had like a role play, and I was playing with headquarters, and they call me Madame Boss, which is because I was pushing them and trying to have I was playing a certain role. But Benga, you should also not forget that I was not the only one behind this desk and in this office, because we had a team of people that had different skills. And Musa was there, and Emily was there. So there's different people with different learning styles and different ways of doing that. Also, as a team, if you work as a team, you can also do things in a different way. So then everybody, like Bettina says, I think it's very crucial. You have to be authentic. You can't just, only if you're truly a very good actor, you could do it. But I think most of us are not. So I would look for things that suit your needs, and you don't have to be you don't have to be a man of all trades. I think you can also make sure that you alternate with other people in a team. Like that's what we're doing today as well. We all have different styles as well, so we are coming together, and then you divide the job so people see different faces, but also see different approaches. You can also be you can be clever and use some of these tools. You see us do this. So even if you're not that outgoing yourself, but you could plugging in a tool or a Mentimeter or a quiz is quite easy to do. And nowadays online, you have all these nice programs that you can use. So I would also be clever like that. And then of course I would put yourself in I would also kind of assess. We just came out of a course, and we had a participant called Lalisa, and he was a complete theorist from the first moment. And I'm far away from him, but I knew he was going to ask every session, like, I need to have the books. Can I have the references? So you also then make sure that we cater for him. So we have the references and the books, and he can ask questions about it, and so in that sense, you just have to be ready to cater, even if it's not your own style. But you don't have to be,
great.
Yeah. That is what I would say. Maybe Lucia, you want to add?
I think just to emphasize again the use of the tools and of course, we're talking about in the virtual setting, there are these Mentimeters and so on, so you can still have an engaging or interactive session through using these tools, because people still have to write in the chat box, or they have to click on something, or like fill in sticky notes and so on. So that can still make people be engaged. And then I think, there are some other type of exercises that also I think can, that are more interactive. So for example, the one we started with, and then I think there to implement those, it's more about the practice. I think it's something that we just have to, as facilitators, try them out. If it doesn't work, like for example, I think we also have the first breakout group, like not many people managed to have the experience that was designed in a way, and yet there was still like a way to reflect about that exercise, even though it perhaps didn't work the way it was intended to. So I think we also have to be ready to accept that, okay, like it wasn't quite what we planned, but that is what happens in reality, no? You're in a meeting and there is one person who doesn't stop talking, and so, or like other unexpected things. So I think we just have to, as Bettina said earlier, go a little bit with the flow and try our best, and then just practice this art of being able to respond to what comes at you, which I think is a real learning curve. I mean, I'm definitely like finding it for myself, but I think it's just through trial and error, and and maintaining then basic things, no, like the respect and the listening, like all of that anyway will help make people feel comfortable. And then the rest, like the fancy stuff, can come more slowly, I think.
Thank you,
I have a
Lucia.
very quick thing to add, because what Lucia say is, I'm trained as a fisheries person, a fishy person. And when you are working with fishermen and you work with fish communities, then it's not about fish at all. It's about people. And you have to learn how to engage with people. So I then I thought like, I can know about everything there is to know, stock assessment and fingerlings and fishing gear, but it will not help me support the management of these resources. I need to know about people and how to engage with them. So the skill set and the knowledge that Lucia is referring to, that was a completely different pathway of learning for me as well. Learning about how do you manage people, how do you involve people and help them participate, how do you give people a voice, when do I have to step back, when I have to be neutral. So learning not to have an opinion myself. That was also a very important lesson for me. So it's a skill set that you also need to develop. And there's lots of stuff out there. And I think you should also, back to you, like also try before you die. That's also always my motto. What works for you, what doesn't work for you. But that is also a learning curve. It's you do something, you think, not for me. You reflect what would work for me. And this is kind of, you go through this learning cycle again. And so you have your content expertise, but this is a different whole pool of expertise that you also learn by doing and experimenting. Yeah.
Thank you, Ingrid, and thank you, Christiana, for the lovely comment in the chat. I'm glad it was useful. I wanted to just flag one thing to the question, and that is, of course, that when we facilitate a process, it is our responsibility as a facilitator to make people be safe in the dialogue so that they feel they can say their say, they will be appreciated. And there might be arguments, there might be disagreements, but it'll still be a safe space physically for people to actually be in this dialogue. And how you assure the safe space is always a bit of a tricky thing that really needs careful planning, especially when this is a meeting around maybe scarce resources or an agreement that you would like to achieve that is harder. And one thing I just wanted to say is it's important, you might have picked up when Ingrid was speaking, she says, I realized this one was a theorist and he was going to ask this, and this one was more the activist. And so I think that is really helpful for you to be in a meeting that you are facilitating, to understand, oh, this is a theorist. He's been very quiet. Probably if you can say, can I open the floor to anyone who has maybe more substantive questions around the topic, that person will share their wisdom. But if you don't know, you might not open the floor and that person might never speak and make their contribution. So this is, I think, one thing I wanted to add. So thank you so much for this question.
Yeah,
and I think I hand over, yes.
What I found very interesting, this is just a learning for me now. I always, like you said, it's very difficult maybe for Lucia and Ingrid to be quiet. When you ask this question, for people to open the floor for questions, I want instant questions, because I'm like that. So I have to kind of like, I'm going like this. I'm like, yeah, where's the question? And I actually want to kind of already start what Wenger was saying, like Madame Boss, like pushing, or just kind of like, so like, yeah, but there's nobody have a question. So that is my style. And it's very funny because it's even equally powerful not to do it. And this is also why it is good, like if you have a team like this, like with Bettina, she's like, no, she's just letting it go. Well, I would already be like, yeah, let's go. So that is also something for me also to realize that I sometimes you just step back and let it happen and not be in your face all the time. So I also thought that is for me a good learning curve now to do it like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I want to say maybe one last thought before. I'm not sure, Ingrid, maybe we don't have time to share the Padlet. Maybe we'll just take the last minute. Do you want to do it?
Yeah, just see what comes out of it.
Share it. Then over to you. Go for it, Ingrid.
Yeah, because I think it is very nice, because it is something that we can apply what we have talked about the session.
All right.
So I'm sharing the screen in the chat. This is another tool, because I also love this tool, and it's also very nice if you want to have some tools for when you work online. So this is called a Padlet board. I don't know, some of you might have seen it. And this is about, we are going to reflect about the session. And it's called the heart, hand, and head reflection exercise. And so learning takes place at like 3 levels. It is like, it takes place at the heart, which is the personal level. What kind of do you take out of it? You know, what changed maybe your attitude, or things that you think, oh, I should now do this differently. Like what I was just saying to Bettina, I should be a bit more, not so reactive. I should maybe be a bit more patient before I start pushing. And then the hands level is a practical. So what now new skills do you learn? And then there is the head, which is the intellectual theoretical level. And so what are your learning points of today? So by clicking on the plus, you can say, okay, so for me, what I picked out of this session is this. Maybe it was something personally that you picked out. Some of you have already shared some of the things also in the chat, but if you could share it here. So maybe you think, okay, practically, this is interesting for me. This is what I could do differently, or and with your head. Maybe you learned some new things that you didn't know about. So could we ask you to just post something? And if you click on this, the plus, you get a sign like this, and then you start typing here, or you write something fantastic here, and then you put publish, and then it appears here. Yeah, so you can choose which one you want to reflect on, or maybe you have something to say by more than one, feel free. Do you think that works? Could we manage this? And if it's not possible, then you can post it in the chat. If you can't enter, the link is in the chat, I think, Flaminia, you click on the link in the chat that was just shared by you, to you. And then you give your feedback about the session. So what touched your heart, your hand, or your head level? What was a personal learning? What was a practical learning? And I'm going to remove mine because, oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, that's nice. Yeah, you need
You
to
can write it in
embrace
the
silence.
chat.
Sorry, Flaminia?
They can also write it in the chat, and then I will put it in the Padlet if it's easier for you.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. So but then also write in the chat if you're referring to the head, the head, the heart, or the hands. Let me see how many people are in here. Can you enter it?
Ingrid.
Yes.
I didn't fully understand what you're supposed to do.
Oh, okay. So there's a link in the chat.
Yes.
And then when you click on it, you get to see the screen that I have in front of me.
Yes,
and
I'm
then
there.
We talked about learning, and learning is about doing something, reflecting on it, and then maybe improving it. So we like to reflect on the session. So if this session, how this session was useful for you. So was there personal learning for you, for the heart? Was there something practical that you think, this is what I can now do with what I would like to change, like the practical learning? Or is there something you thought, okay, there's a new theory or something new for my head that I didn't know about when it comes to learning? Maybe you said, oh, the co-op learning style is new to me. Yeah, clear?
Perfect.
Good. So, and if you can click on the plus, you can add. And thanks for asking. This is how we learn. Huh? It's not clear, you ask. And if you say it was quite a practical learning for me here, it would be nice if you can explain why. So you could click on the edit and you could see, you could make some more. The why is, of course, if you know about the why, you deepen your learning. That is already the reflecting. Eh? Why are we doing things? I'm looking at the time, so let me see at the. So you can, I will just pick out some. So some of you are saying like the heart at the end, we are all moving by the things we love and like the most. This is also, I think, is that related to learning, or is that in relation also to life, I guess. We need to embrace our emotions in dialogue processes. I understand now the qualities that make me an activist, the magic mix of different learning styles. That was also a personal note. The practical part is go with the flow. Everything doesn't work according to the plan. Have a range of activities in the process with different energy. That's a practical approach of this learning style and how we learn. We need to be practical in order to maintain some balance between our home, the earth, and us. Yeah. I can now physically drive my style as an activist. This is also an activist talking. I can drive it forward. It was practical in that I learned various forms of engaging people. Okay. And then let's go to the head. You need to embrace silence. Yeah, you maintain a safe space. I learned about my strengths and weaknesses and how I should embrace them positively. It is necessary to rethink and analyze what we are learning. Why, how, in order to be more successful. The topic of discussion should guide my learning style. It's a memory. Okay, guys, there's still room to add because the link you have. So if you think about something, because it's also, the reflectors might need a bit more time to do this, or the theorists than the activists, because activists will put something down and then think, oh, maybe I want to change it or add it. That's also, again, what very often happens. So the link is there for you to add if you think like, oh, these were insights from the session that I like to share. And Bettina was also saying in the chat, because some of you already asked me also if you can have the PowerPoint presentations. It is nice if I think also if I also speak for Lucia and Bettina and Flaminia, just to know who's been in the session. So maybe you can just write your name in the chat or your email if you want us to share something. That would be great. Over to you.
And I just want to say we'll also share a couple of smaller exercises that you could try out, accommodating different learning styles. So if you feel like you're in the green and you'd like to see if you can move people into the yellow for an exercise, we have a couple of tips and tricks for you that we're happy to share. So please feel free to put your email there.
Yeah.
Perfect.
In the chat, Flaminia posted already the reflection method book that our organization has developed, which might be also useful. I use them very often in a training to reflect about things that we learned. And there's also the heart, hand, and the head is in it. The one that you just did.
Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you. And I really want to say this reflection book, which is the last link shared here in the chat, it's amazing. And I really want to say, starting to reflect on our practice really helps us to learn more effectively, but it also helps us sometimes to avoid tension and conflict. Because I can say, when this was happening, I felt like this, and someone else can say, but I felt like this, and then we can learn from this together and move forward. So really important when you work in diverse teams. It's a fantastic resource. And one of the gurus from applied improvisation, she says, doing an interactive exercise is just an excuse for a really good reflection. And I think that is something I'd really like to support too. So with this, thanks for the emails and the chat. Keep them coming. I'd like to say thank you to the Gobeshona organizers for making this possible. Thank you all for joining.